Hello everyone, welcome to another build guide. Today I'm bringing you Ignite, Shield Rush, Forge Guard. That is a lot of words. Let's get into the guide. So the first thing you want to look at is how good do we look. This build is really fun. It's a very crazy build because you're going to be using Shield Rush as a paintball like this, right? You're going to be using Sigils of Hope for buffs. And you're going to be using Volatile Reversal, Lunge, and Abyssal Echoes as further buffs for damage. You can see that when I use Lunge and I go through some enemies, I get these stacks here of Crusaders. That gives us fire penetrations or ignites hit even harder. So while you're mapping, you want to make sure you line up as many enemies as possible to do as much damage as you can. You can see every time I use my Shield Rush, I'm actually losing 10% of my HP or 15. But this is mitigated with all the sources of life leech that the build has to, mainly Bleeding Heart Amulet. Make sure you get it, right? You can see I easily heal up. And I'm one-shotting things right now because the build has crazy damage. So if you were not one-shotting stuff, you would be healing more, right? Because the ignites would stay for longer on the enemies, like this. And then when you get to an objective that is a bit scary, right? What you want to do is you want to use Abyssal Echoes on them, like that. For the bonus damage, and boom. You do the volatile combo. And just like that, you can go through walls, by the way, you can see. And you can see how much damage you actually do with this. You can spam it like crazy when there's a lot of enemies. And it's overall just really fun. Again, for single targets, you get next to them, you Abyssal Echoes for the debuff, you Volatile Reversal, and then you start spamming. Let's get into the guide again. So again, Ignite Shield Rush, really fun build. It shines especially with a lot of uniques, mainly Bleeding Heart for the life leech, the damage leech itself. But you have some tips in the guide in order to sustain life early on if you don't have the amulet yet. Again, the abilities are fairly simple. You use Shield Rush with the damage setup. You use Sigils of Hope for all the defenses it provides with the endurance threshold. So even though you're gonna go low in life because you're losing life by using Shield Rush, you're actually getting tankier because you're getting into your threshold, and you're gonna have a lot of ignite chance for each of your active sigils. Additionally, we have Lunge set up for Crusader's Fury. Again, this buff can stack as many enemies as you hit, so you can get, 100% penetration, 20% penetration, 200% penetration, depending on how many enemies you actually manage to hit through your dashing. Extremely powerful buff, especially when fighting bosses that have add-ons. Volatile Reversal, classic setup just with maximum damage, we use the enemy damage taken plus the enemy damage over time taken. We're doing damage over time, so this is basically, this doubles our damage pretty much when we Volatile Reversal on top of a boss. And then we have Abyssal Echoes, which can spread and echo through enemies, and also applies this 24% damage over time taken additionally. So as you can see, there is a lot of multipliers in this build, and that way you can do basically free damage pretty much just by having an axe. It's pretty crazy the damage you can do. So again, passives, you have everything described like always, like you have all the points in order that you should get them at, and this is pretty min-maxed, so you're gonna have a good time. You have all the tips for your skill rotation and the gameplay, advanced tips, in case you want to learn more. For example, I explained here that you can cancel your Shield Rush with Volatile Reversal, so I'm gonna show that. But for example, we're Shield Rushing, now I Volatile Reversal, so I actually cancel the animation, mid-animation. You can do the same with Lunge, right? If you lunge into an enemy, you could just Volatile Reversal mid-air like this, right? So there's a ton of actual mechanics that you can use with this build that everything that the guide just covers completely. So again, extremely fun build to play with all the mobility and all the craziness that goes on. For the gearing, like always, you have all the basic gearing. We also give you, again, tips to get Elemental Leech pretty much for free because it's an item you get in the campaign in Act 2. And again, just with a decent bardish or a decent axe with chance to bleed or chance to ignite, you're gonna be fine. And the build really shines the moment you get the hubris gauntlets, because this will convert all the bleed you do into ignites, allowing you basically to double dip in a lot of sources of bleed and turning them into ignites. So you have a point that normally would give you 70% chance to ignite and 70% chance to bleed. Now they're gonna be all bleed, right? So you're gonna be getting 140 chance to ignite instead of just the random bleeds that you're not really scaling as well, right? Again, as always, complete planner in the patch, in the article that teaches you everything you need to know, covering everything pretty much, from blessings to gearing, everything you need to know. All the blessing choices, all the magic find choices, your idols. There is pretty powerful idols for this build. You can always go for just damage over time and like HP idols like these ones. But obviously you can make use of Throne of Ambition for end tier bosses, right? Like the super hard ones. And you can also use Void Rift idols with damage over time, or chance to ignite idols. This Void Rift, don't underestimate it, because basically what this does is, like, when you kill enemies, this thing can proc, and this will actually be able to slow enemies, because you're gonna have chance to slow on Void skill, and it will actually apply ignites. It will be an extra source of it's like an extra hit. So don't underestimate having a source of chance to cast Void Rift on kill, especially while mapping. Obviously not so useful in bosses, but really useful to have at least one. Again, you have all the useful stuff as always on the guide that you want to check. And you know, this build has tons of synergy with anything that just boosts your damage generically. You know, if you're playing with another paladin, for example, that is giving you buffs with javelin. If you're playing with any class that has healing, like a druid with totems, or like again just a holy trail, or even Aura of Decay for an acolyte, the ability to have someone healing you so you don't go as low is very valuable. But again, this build is mostly like a crazy build to play on your own and just have fun with it. And again, even though the build looks very wonky to play and kind of like crazy, the build is actually pretty tanky, because you have so much armor, so much endurance, have tons of damage reduction thanks to Wings of Argentus and all the mechanics that apply while channeling. Like, for example, the Ground Patience of Hercule just gives you so much armor while you're using Shield Rush. And you know, you actually have a lot of sustain. So again, I highly recommend playing this build, and it's just a really fun one. There's versions of this build that you can play, like you can play it with Paladin for Blitz instead of just playing the Ignite version. But I think like Paladin has so many good builds that this one really shines as a Forge card, which is a mastery that doesn't have as many options. And again, as always, guys, all of our guides have a loot filter that you can download. You know, make sure you save link as, and you will have your filter ready. XML, drop it into your game folder, your filter game folder, and you're good to go. And yeah, it's gonna have a build guide now. So I'm really happy to share this build with you guys, and let me know what you think. It's a pretty fun one, it's a pretty crazy one, and you will see the damage this does with basically no gear. It's crazy. So have fun with it, and let me know what you think. See ya.